Well, James Harden finally got his wish. After all the complaining, showing up this season fat and out of shape, disrespecting his now former teammates and the city of Houston. Quite frankly, James Harden disrespected the fans, the NBA, and the game of basketball. But all the whining, all the complaining, it worked. Because that's how it goes in the NBA. These superstar players get whatever the hell they want. James Harden found his way to Brooklyn. He has yet another super team to be a part of. And now the pressure is on. This James Harden situation over the past month or two, it's just so bad for the NBA. This is not a good look for the NBA. I want you guys to think about this for a second. Name another job in this country where the employees have complete and total control of the company. I'll save you the trouble. There's not one. It doesn't exist, besides in the NBA. The NBA has its diehard fan base, but to the casual observer, the casual fan that starts watching the NBA during the playoffs, they can't relate, or they find it really hard to relate to any of the superstars in this league. In the NFL, you can relate to Tom Brady. You can relate to Drew Brees. Now, I'm not talking financially, of course, but the hard work, determination, the desire to win at all cost, the humility, we can relate to that. You don't have that in the NBA. Yes, the players work hard, but all those other things that I listed, they don't exist in the NBA on a night in, night out basis. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Drew Brees was nearing the end of his prime from 2014 to 2016, but he was still playing at a super high level. The Saints were explosive offensively, but the defense was atrocious. The defense was breaking records as one of the worst in the history of the NFL. And because of that bad defense, the Saints went 7-9 for 3 straight years. How did Drew Brees handle that? Did he pout? Did he complain? Did he blast his team publicly, demand a trade so that he could end his career elsewhere and play for a contender? No. He did what was best for the team, the franchise. He took less money so Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton could go out and get him some help defensively. Now compare that, how Drew Brees handled those 3 years in New Orleans, to how James Harden and the typical NBA superstar handles a similar situation. Once their team's title window closes, what do? Do they take less money so the team can get them some help in free agency? In most cases, no, they don't. Normally, it goes down just like it went down in Houston this season with James Harden. An ugly exit. After the trade to Brooklyn the other night, James Harden released a statement saying that he gave his all to the Rockets in the city of Houston. Oh, really? Are we being serious right now? Perhaps me and James Harden have a different definition of giving your all. Let's see. You wanted Dwight Howard. That didn't work out. And most people gave James Harden the benefit of the doubt on the Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard hasn't worked out anywhere during his 15, 16-year NBA career until his second stint in Los Angeles last season. And then he was just a role player. He wasn't the focal point of the Lakers. Okay, so it didn't work out with Dwight Howard. That's fine. Let's go out and let's get Chris Paul. Then I'll be happy. Then we will be championship contenders. I'll give James Harden credit. He was actually right about Chris Paul. I think the Rockets would have won the NBA Finals a couple of years ago had Chris Paul not been injured in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals against Golden State and missed the rest of that series. I think the Rockets would have won the title that year. After that, though, the relationship between CP3 and James Harden went south. After the end of the following season, right after they were bounced from the playoffs, James Harden went to Daryl Morey and Tillman Fertitta and told them that he wanted Chris Paul gone. He wanted him out. He pushed for them to do whatever it took to get Russell Westbrook to Houston. The Rockets acquiesced to James Harden's demands, brought in a vastly overpaid Russell Westbrook. And the Rockets were worse last season than they were the year before with Chris Paul. Now, this was a baffling decision to me. CP3, better shooter. CP3, better defender, better leader. James Harden pushed the Rockets to actually trade down because he couldn't get along with Chris Paul. And what happened? He couldn't get along with Russell Westbrook either. So the Rockets are in bad shape going into this season, mainly because of James Harden and the moves that he wanted them to make. And they aren't close to being title contenders. And so James Harden starts pouting. He quits on the team before the season even begins. Harden, a dude who can put up 30 points one-handed and blindfolded, a dude who claims to have given his all to this team, played half-ass in Houston this season. Now, don't get me wrong. He balled out the first 3 games just to quiet his critics. Then he went right back into pout mode. Was impossible to be around in that locker room. Averaged just 17 points a game his final 5 games as a Rocket. But all that is over now. James Harden got his wish. I would expect that he'll be back to scoring 30-plus points every night in Brooklyn. However, all of the pressure is on the shoulders of James Harden from this point forward. You don't want a title this year? Or at the very least, make the NBA Finals? It's another blemish on the legacy of James Harden. Now, some are acting like this 3-headed monster of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving are going to be a force in the Eastern Conference, in the NBA as a whole. But I'm not so sure. For one, we've already seen this twice. Pairing James Harden with another ball-dominant point guard. It doesn't work. James Harden is the ultimate ISO player. He has to have the ball in his hands to be effective. It's the same thing with Kyrie Irving. But this situation in Brooklyn with Kyrie could be the most difficult pairing of James Harden's career. Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook, they're not going to voice their displeasure publicly, at least during the season. We all know Kyrie Irving has no problem doing that. If Harden and Durant get tight and Kyrie feels like the third wheel, or Harden and Kyrie can't get along, we'll know about it because Kyrie Irving will make it known. And this is assuming that the Nets keep Kyrie Irving or he decides to stay in Brooklyn. This trade for James Harden seemed a little bit rushed to me. It felt like a reaction on Brooklyn's part to all the problems that they've been having with Kyrie Irving over the last couple of weeks. Hell, at this point, we don't know if Kyrie Irving is going to make it through the season in Brooklyn. Taking a break for personal reasons that no one knows about 3 weeks into the season, then blatantly violating the NBA's COVID protocols, attending a Zoom call for a politician while his team's playing the Nuggets the other night. Do any of these actions sound like a guy that is committed to basketball, that is committed to his team? It is not going to work with both James Harden and Kyrie Irving sharing the floor. Whatever happens with Kyrie Irving doesn't matter. It is championship or bust for the Brooklyn Nets over the next couple of years. If the Nets don't win a title, this is going to be viewed as a massive failure. They have mortgaged their future in order to acquire James Harden. 3 unprotected first-round draft picks. Karis LeVert, gone. And if Harden doesn't win a title in Brooklyn, it is going to forever taint his legacy. He's 31 years old. That window of prime basketball is coming to a close sometime over the next few years. If James Harden doesn't win a title, he will go down as one of the best scorers to ever play in the NBA. A Hall of Fame career with that one blemish on his resume. No championship. He will be in the same conversation as Charles Barkley or Chris Paul at this point. All-time greats, dominant point guard, perennial all-star. But he will be the guy in this generation of players that could not win the big one. God forbid he doesn't make the NBA Finals. Then it's going to be even worse. So you got what you wanted, James Harden. You got to Brooklyn. You've been saying for months that you wanted to be here. You wanted to reunite with Kevin Durant. KD and Kyrie, They have their rings already. The pressure is on James Harden to get his. All right, that's all for today. Hit that like and subscribe button. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Can James Harden and Kyrie Irving coexist in Brooklyn? Can they play well together? And if James Harden doesn't win a title, how is that going to impact his legacy? Let me know your thoughts. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Best way to contact me is by email at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.